The World Health Organization's special COVID-19 envoy has now predicted a third wave of the pandemic in Europe in early 2021. In an interview with Swiss newspapers, David Nabarro said, and I'm quoting, "They missed building up the necessary infrastructure during the summer months after they brought the first wave under the control. Now we have the second wave. If they don't build the necessary infrastructure, we will have a third wave early next year." Europe briefly enjoyed sinking infection rates, but they are now surging again. Nabarro lauded the response of the Asian countries like South Korea, where infections are relatively low. UK is all set to end the national COVID-19 lockdown on the 2nd of December and move into tougher regional restrictions. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson announced the decision after COVID-19 infections and deaths started rising again. More than 55,000 people have lost their lives due to COVID-19 in the UK alone. The country has also faced the deepest economic contraction of any G7 country. The new rules are likely to be met with resistance from some lawmakers who argue that the country cannot afford to close shops and the hospitality sector again.
I think the good news is we will be exiting national restrictions on the 2nd of December. As the Prime Minister said at the beginning of the month-long restrictions, we'll be going back into a tiered system, which is a far better way to tackle this on a localised approach. And with regard to Christmas, I think frustrating as it is for all of us, Christmas is not going to be normal this year. But that said, the Prime Minister and everyone else were looking at ways to see how families can spend some time with each other over Christmas period. Obviously, that's something that we would like to do, and it's been a difficult year for all of us. But it's, as I said, it's not going to be a normal Christmas this year.
And in an address to the nation, the Swedish Prime Minister has urged the people to show solidarity and a sense of community to curb the spread of COVID-19. The country is witnessing record numbers of cases and growing pressure on the hospitals. Last week, the Swedish government announced a decision to limit public gatherings. The Prime Minister also pointed out that the Swedes had not been following the COVID-19 recommendations and urged them to cancel or reschedule unnecessary plans. Meanwhile, Germany will have to extend its measures to contain the COVID-19 crisis until the 20th of December. Germany imposed a month-long lockdown from the 2nd of November to contain a second wave of the virus. Bars and restaurants have been closed, but schools remain open. Private gatherings have been limited to 10 people, but the new proposal aims to bring the number further down to 5. German Chancellor Angela Merkel is all set to meet leaders on the 25th of November to discuss whether to impose further restrictions or extend the current ones. She announced her support for an EU proposal for a global pandemic contract, but also warned against forgetting about developing countries.
Wir werden jetzt mit Gavi sprechen, wann diese Verhandlungen beginnen, denn das beunruhigt mich jetzt etwas, dass da noch gar nichts gemacht ist. Wenn dann das Geld alle ist, dann muss man weitersehen, und Deutschland hat sich selten nichts gemacht, aber Deutschland kann auch nicht alleine die internationale Allianz aufrechterhalten. Aber jetzt geht es auch erstmal darum, dass man das Richtige tut, denn Geld auf dem Konto reicht nicht, sondern es muss dabei auch was für die Entwicklungsländer rauskommen.
Spain is set to begin a comprehensive coronavirus vaccination program in January. The Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez said that he expects to cover a substantial part of the population within 6 months. Sánchez also said that there will be 13,000 vaccination points and more health professionals will be recruited to deal with the situation. Spain has reported more than 1.5 million COVID-19 cases and 46,000 fatalities. The number of new infections in France, meanwhile, rose by more than 17,000. The country recorded more than 22,000 cases the previous day. The number of hospitalizations dropped for the 5th day in a row. The French President Emmanuel Macron may announce partial relaxation of the nationwide lockdown rules, which were put in place on the 30th of October. And joining us live on the broadcast this minute is our London Bureau Chief, Mandy Clark. The UK standing at a very crucial juncture at this point, Mandy, with the Prime Minister considering removing the nationwide lockdown measures and imposing regional restrictions. And it's a move that could see a lot of opposition from the lawmakers as well.
Yeah, it's a move that won't be popular any way you look at it. People are sick of a lockdown that's increasingly clear. They want their liberties. But of course, a big worry, as was rightfully pointed out by that lady who expert is that the minute we lift restrictions, there's a surge in cases. So he's asking for people to hold those restrictions. It seems that Boris Johnson will move back to the tiered system. Now, we saw that tiered system before this national lockdown, and it didn't seem to work very well. There was a lot of confusion on which tier you were in and what that meant. And so unless they have refined it and improved it, we can expect those spikes. Of course, Europe and the UK want to unlock before Christmas a big national holiday so they can spend time with the families. But since COVID is not under control yet, yes, there's hope for the vaccine. There's a real risk of entering into a third spike.
But when it comes to the authorities announcing these restrictions, even, Mandy, a lot of confusion that we've seen over the last few weeks, and we've been talking about it at length as well, about how the government has failed to give out a very clear picture to the people, to those within the administration.
Yes, and famously, even Boris Johnson didn't even know what was allowed.
We'll just try and reconnect that line with Mandy, but as she was about to tell us, a lot of criticism coming the way of Prime Minister Boris Johnson, not just for the fact that he is considering removing the nationwide lockdown and imposing the tougher regional restrictions. This coming at a time when officials are already questioning the preparedness of the UK government when it comes to that move, but also for the confusion which has prevailed over the last few weeks on part of the administration, which has failed to actually give out a very clear picture. Mandy is back with us. Mandy, go ahead.
Exactly that. I could hear you, and it's really that the even Prime Minister Boris Johnson's own government believes that he doesn't have a good handle on this. They don't want to see any more confusion. They don't want to see any more lockdowns. It does feel like there is a light at the end of the tunnel, which is the vaccine, and they don't want the economy, which has been severely damaged, to be any worse off. So they want clarity when it comes to lockdown restrictions and as minimal restrictions as possible, because they want the economy up and running when the vaccines roll out so the UK can recover.
All right, thanks very much, Mandy, for those perspectives and details.
Co-presented by Skoda. Simply clever.